And thank you very much. For those of you who are new or not from ACE Makerspace, my name is Rachel Sad. I often go by Crafty or McCrafty because there are a lot of Rachels here. So if somebody's talking about Crafty, that's me. I've been a member at ACE Makerspace for about 10 years, and I've been the ED for the last 5 years. And my making stuff tends to be I laser a lot of art. I build interactive public art when there's an public that can interact. Um, usually public stuff. And then I sew a lot, and I like to put electronics in the things I sew because it makes them cooler. And those tend to be my wheelhouses, though I will dabble just about everywhere. And of course, making a makerspace as you do. So today's presentation is it's a short presentation, but it's mostly demo and answering your top of mind questions. And we're totally ready to like look under the hood. Joining me today is Aaron Barraza. He's our primary WordPress developer, and he's here to answer the questions that I cannot, because I got out of tech about 6 years ago. And as you know, that's like a million years ago when it comes to code. So we're here today to just talk about the journey, both from like a management perspective, a user perspective, and a tech perspective. So yay, thanks for joining us. Feel free to use the chat to interject questions at any time if it's not a good pause spot, or, we're a small group, so bring it on. For our workshop today, we do have some agreements. The agreements that we have, or acknowledgements, are that Zoom is hard. we're all over Zoomed, that we're going to do our best to speak respectfully and not over talk, but Zoom is hard. And that we agree not to treat each other with respect, and to not use shame language or insults today, and to be polite. So those are the agreements to be part of the conversation. And so I welcome you to that. Something else to know is that my pronouns are she, her, and hers. So without further ado, unless somebody has a primary question right now, I'm going to start the screen share. All righty. Now I got to get all the things back up, because Zoom just like shuts all your chat windows and participant windows the minute that you go to screen share. So it doesn't look like it is. Is it sharing my screen or no? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just not showing me the green box. You should see a Zoom screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yay. Yeah, usually there's like the big green window because I have two monitors, and I'm like, which one did it share? Yeah. Let's go to the beginning of the presentation. Whoops. So this is our occupancy tracking system. And when everything hit a year ago, coincidentally, our anniversary discussion, I guess, we had to do something about it. We had to figure out how to be open, especially when it hit that second month, or like, 2.5 months into the craziness, and we were knee deep in making PPE, but like trying to figure out how to exist. We were like, okay, we got to start thinking about solutions, and like, how are we going to address this problem? And so the leadership at ACE kind of took a pretty pragmatic approach that was actually a little bit more conservative than some of the other people in our area were interpreting the health mandate, because we wanted to stray on the side of just respect and people's safety. And so the kind of the three-pronged approach was training, lots more training. Like our program just has a lot of training in it. We just started off with live training, then we recorded it, then we did Q&A, then we did reference manuals, and we even did a version of a smaller version of the training for visitors. And especially back a year ago, this was important because people didn't even know what kind of mask to wear, how to wear a mask, how to sanitize your hands properly, how not to touch your face. And then our next approach was verify a lot. We actually added a layer of certification testing to our COVID training. We installed a new camera system so that we could do remote staffing. So if somebody was stuck with a puzzle, we could, we couldn't be there, but we could bring up a feed and maybe help them. And also verify that the masks were on. And then the laborious slog of actually checking the feed. And we've gotten to a spot thing. We check 4 spots randomly based on activity per room, and that tells us the likelihood of people actually keeping all their gear on. And then contact tracing and informed consent, which is the system we're going to show you today. So everybody gets to know how many people are in a room before they walk into it. So that's the consent part of it. And contact tracing is we reduced our access to members only. And all members are tied to a fob. And therefore, if they check in and out of every room they go into, then we get to know every room they went into and who they might have cross-exposed and what happened, so that if there's an exposure, we can inform everybody appropriately. We've had 3 exposures to date. To our knowledge, no cross infections. And so a year later, I can tell you this kind of worked out. And we're gonna keep it going until it's safe to, like, our benchmark of when we don't have to like contact trace is when you can go into a grocery store without a mask. When you can go into a grocery store without a mask, then we won't contact trace anymore. So any kind of big questions about like our approach, our philosophical approach to doing this before I start getting more technical about how we technically pulled it off? Because manually, this would be a hell of a lot of work. You'd have to have like staff. Oh, something to know about ACE, we're 24/7. Our members have 24/7 access, and we're volunteer and member run. So there's no staff. So yeah, so the member experience was kind of dominated by like occupancy tracking. If we couldn't do that, we didn't feel it was ethical to even let members in the space. We just didn't, we were like, this is people's lives. It's no longer like convenience or any of that kind of thing. And because we are 24/7, we will operate a lot on trust. Quite frankly, we're like, hopefully you don't get a membership and then come clean out our shop. Like, please no, we have actually never had a problem. So, and then we also wanted to specify that occupancy tracking wasn't the same as tool reservation. Tool reservation is a way bigger system than just controlling a room. And we're not big enough to put all of our tools in separate rooms. We still were using our dibs system for tool reservation, which is actually pretty low key. You go on Slack and you go to the room you want, say the workshop, and you're like, dibs on the table saw for the next 4 hours. And like, you get the table saw for the next 4 hours. That's how that works. If there's nobody dibbing, then it's first come, first serve, and you figure out how to share like adults, which actually works shockingly well. Any kind of questions about this so far? No questions, thumbs down, questions? Okay. Because it's important to understand why we did something before I launch into like, this is what we did. This is a 2-part system for us to pull off the technical end of this. One was an online booking system, and the second is point of occupancy tracking. So you needed to have check-in, check-out stations at every room. And so I'm gonna pop out of this and let's check out the occupancy tracking system. So this is the ACE member website. And if you're not logged in, this is all you get. It's pretty much a brochure website where you can purchase membership and start the sign-up process and learn about us, learn about all the programs and things like that. But if you log in, then you get this fancy new menu with all kinds of stuff, including like a member directory and a handbook and the newsletter archive and, you know, credentials and all kinds of fun stuff. But the first thing that's important that members get is booking. Now, something to know about the demo today is what I'm showing you right now is production. And production is version 2.0 of the software that we put together. And we're also going to be able to show you version 2.1 that we have in our dev instance, and version 2.2 that we have in our version 2.1, which is in staging, and version 2.2, which is in dev. Did I get that right, Aaron? I was just like, we left all the versions in the different environments so we could show you the iteration over time.
Yeah.
For this software, we set it up so it would, this version, so that it would be a little bit more mobile friendly, so that when you get into like this kind of view, it's pretty easy to book something. The only thing we couldn't make easy was the calendar. Like, there's no view in the world that makes a calendar convenient on a little phone. We tried. Unless you're huge like Google, I couldn't even find examples out there. So the member experience is you pick a room. Hi, laser. And it's going to be tomorrow. And it's going to be after I'm hanging out with some folks upstairs. So, and see, with this will be different when I show you the other versions. You have to go through all the 15-minute increments to pick your thing, which is a little, so let's say I know that I'm going to probably be done upstairs by 4 p.m. And I know that I probably have at least 2 hours worth of stuff I need to do. So till 6 p.m. And notice I had to do the math in my head for that 59 moment. And I'm like, oh, because it's actually taking real time. Now, because the booking's available, I get this nice button that pops up and it says booking is available. And I'm like, yay, book the spot. Woohoo. Now we have a little error because it didn't pop up in your bookings. But when I hit this button, it shows it to me in the calendar. And there's my booking and there's my cancel option. And this will show me all of this for a user. If for some reason the booking isn't available, it would have given me a message and a link so that I could snap to that calendar view and see what else is booked and see if I just change my time by 15 minutes here or there, where I can fit in. So I'm going to stop now from a user experience. Thoughts, feedback?
Do you charge? Is there any merchant services attached to that for the time, laser time?
Not for us. There is a after use fee attached to our laser time, but it's based on firing time, not bookable session. So it wouldn't make sense for us to charge at this end, because you can be in laser setting up for 2 hours and then only cut for 3 minutes. Like, it's a very possible thing. And we're only charging you for the 3 minutes. So at our laser, you have to fob into the laser and it calculates all your time and then generates a bill for you when you're done.
Okay.
And then we bill after the fact. And it's 50 cents a minute firing time for us. And I think a lot of it is because our situation is not, we're a 501c3 nonprofit and we're not charging machine time in that way, because our membership is somewhat inclusive, I guess, our model. So yeah. So any other questions?
So for the login, the membership portal,
yeah,
where are you getting that user data from? Is that being pulled from a CRM, or do you store it all on like a WordPress plugin?
we are, let me go to the WordPress backend. So we are running our membership management on WordPress. We're using WooCommerce.
Okay.
With subscriptions and memberships and some customizations to both of those things.
Cool.
Which allows us to like have the menus be available only for somebody who's logged in, who has membership. Like, you could have a user account on our site, but if your membership isn't active, you're never going to see that member tools menu. You only get the option to re-up your membership to see the thing. And you get a message that says, so what's going on with that? So that's what that is. And then something to know about what I'm showing you today is it's a custom plugin. is how it's been developed. So it can be maintained outside of a theme or a child theme. But let's go talk about that. Yay. So that was the member experience for that. And then let's go look here. And this is just a quick simulation of some of the experiences that members have when they're actually at the door of the room and they need to check in. So they're in front of the 7-inch touchscreen with an RFID reader on it. And so this is the screen that they roll up on. And it has basic information, date, room, a prompt to say, please check in or check out, do a thing. And then the current occupancy. So they get to be well aware of what they're walking into at any given time. If you check in and you have a reservation, it just confirms that you've checked in for your reservation. It'll up the occupancy count on it. This presumes that the space, that everybody checked in and out on time, and the space is not maxed out. If you try to pop in too early, it's going to be like, hey, that's really too early. Come back when your reservation is, or see if there's a drop-in spot available. Because the way that we split it up, let's say a room has a maximum safe occupancy of 4 people. We let 3 of those spots be bookable in advance, and we reserve 1 of those spots so that people can just do a drop-in. So if they just need to run in for 5 minutes, cut a thing and run out, like there's still availability for safe occupancy for that. And then if you want to do a drop-in spot, you're like, hey, here's your options for drop-in spot. You'll see on the next couple of versions of the software that we reduced the amount of time here, because we found that by offering the 1 and 2 hour options, people stopped making reservations. They're like, sure, I'm going to finish my project in 2 hours. They never finish it in 2 hours. That's like, no, they never get done. And then if the room is at max occupancy and you try to check in, it's going to tell you the next available reservation or the next available drop-in time. So it's just going to give you a message. We found that users couldn't handle reading. So we changed the amount of words we use to express this in further versions. If you try to check in and you're super late, it's going to tell you, yo, you were super late. Your stuff's canceled. We're not holding the room for you. We found that it was really necessary to train our users not to do that, because otherwise they'd hang up the space. And that's no bueno. We're in the business of making, not holding space. Now, if you tried to check in and the space was full and you had a reservation, it means that somebody before you didn't check out on time. Or maybe they left and they forgot. And at the end of the day, this entire system isn't about making a computer database happy or a computer calculation happy. This is about the safe amount of humans in a room. So before you walk into that room, if you don't, our rule in the house is if you can't check in, you don't go in. But you have alternatives. And this is where that camera system comes in, where there are volunteers on staff who have access to it. There's 4 of us who can be like, let me check the camera feed. Are there really 4 people in there? Oh, so-and-so didn't check out. Let me go bug so-and-so, or you can bug so-and-so, or I can use my administrator privileges and check them out, and then that person can check in. We'll also tell you who didn't check out on time. So you can Slack message them themselves and go, hey friend. You can also knock on the door and go, yo, Bob, your reservation's up and you're bogarting my time. Because we really, from a social perspective, rely on people treating each other like adults and not needing somebody with authority to come do it for them. Like, no, talk to each other like people. And then Bob can apologize and be like, I'll be out of here in just a second. Let me clean this up. And then they, there's some niceness to each other at that point. There's an opportunity to be kind as well and accept that we're all human beings. And for generally speaking, in our community, which was 200 people, 200 members, plus all the people from the public before COVID, people have been pretty nice to each other. We're unfortunately down to about 102 people because, well, COVID. And then if you check out, this is the checkout screen. Like, checked out, yay, we confirmed you left. If you try to check in and you're not COVID certified, you're going to get bounced. If everything goes to pot, we're going to tell you. And usually we're like, take a picture of this, send it to us, and tell us what you're trying to do. So in the land of administrator powers, we also have a bunch of control in the backend. And what this looks like is I can go to the ACE booking plugin out of the dashboard, and I can do things like create rooms. You know, I can create as many rooms as I need to create, or I can edit things about the room, like how many booking slots are available. And so we can do this on the fly from the control panel without having to have any extra code. So this is totally controllable by us, because as safety things change from Alameda County Health, we could get to vary it. Or like, what if we put in an extra HVAC system? Now this room can handle more people, or if we renovate. The other thing that I can do, and I'm going to leave that, yes, is in sessions, I can look and see, who is checked in, you know, who is checked out, and I can find out a little bit of data about bookings this way. But really the primary place that I'm seeing and controlling all that stuff is the booking admin page. And this is so that people can do the administration of the organization without, like I said, having to code. So I'm like, I can tell you right now that right now, Jim, Will, and Michael are in the space. They're in fact in woodshop right now doing woodshop maintenance day. And that's the max occupancy for that room. So yay. Though Jim underbooked himself. And these are upcoming maintenance days, because what we can do, and let's see, I'm going to pick one here, April 3rd. So if I get a booking and I'm like looking at the camera view, that was workshop on April 3rd, I believe. Workshop. So by the way, this is the live bookings today. It's all the people who booked the things. And right now it shows their voluntarily provided Slack handle and the time, but you'll see the difference in the other iterations. So April 3rd, you'll see that there's this blocked out section nobody can book for maintenance, and that's being controlled by these maintenance bookings. So I can book any room for any time and knock it out of availability. So let's say we're having cleaners come in, we're having a maintenance day, there's renovations, or anything that is like org that isn't attached to a person can be knocked out. Questions? All right.
This was
Unmute
all built
myself.
through, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, someone was ahead of me. Brianna?
I was just gonna ask, this is all built through WordPress?
This is all built by Aaron through WordPress as a open source plugin. We'll be stripping the credentials and posting it up on our GitHub, and anybody who wants to or needs to will be able to come get it.
Awesome.
At least, you know, if I could find it.
It is Ace Monster Stories.
Thanks. We're still on our old branding apparently in GitHub. Here, let me just see if it'll let me sign in.
And are you going to be sending us this recording? Because my IT guy was supposed to join us.
Yeah.
This is beyond, this part's beyond me. I just wanted to know what you guys are doing.
Yeah. No, this recording is going to be posted publicly. So at least out to NomCon are available to folks. So yeah, we're still Ace Monster Toys here. I will have to figure out how to let them rename us. They might not let us though. But yeah, it'll just be a code base in here that you'll be able to manipulate. So out of these repos, so 13 repositories, what is it? It's probably Ace Booking.
Ace AMT Booking.
I'm blind.
click on the GitHub icon on the top right left corner.
There we are. Yay.
And that's not public yet?
It's not public, but it'll be public as soon as we put up 2.2. Yes, got it. But it is a packaged plugin. So it's got all the basic stuff that it would have, including all the includes, templates, all of the things. And so that it can totally be restyled for whatever theme you're running. So for all of that. So a little bit about our environment and development, and then I can show more stuff, unless there's a question.
What does POOT stand for?
Point of occupancy tracking. And also that some of us are 12 when we get punchy.
And is the occupancy tracking simply counting people badging in through the door and badging out?
No, it's not the door, it's the check-in, check-out. Because they're gonna have to badge into a door to get access to a suite, but a suite can have 3 different rooms in it. So they have to badge in and out to each individual room.
Okay, so there's RFID reader and touch screen at each room.
At each room that looks like this.
Okay. All right, is that a Android pad or?
No, it's a Raspberry Pi, touch screen, a USB RFID reader.
Got it.
So that what it's doing is it's running this in Chromium. So it's a progressive web app.
Got it.
The Wi-Fi. This was the most cost-effective way we could get something to that we could control, because an Android tablet meant that we would have to do a full Android app to get the kind of control we needed and the readability, and it wouldn't have been cost-effective instead of just embedding it as a web app. So a little bit about development and people and how much we invested, and a little bit about the environment. Something to know is that we're not just pushing data through WordPress, we're also pushing data to our, what we call ACE Grand Central, which is a Django framework that controls a bunch of integrations for us. So, yay, Django framework. So not only is it doing asset tracking, it tracks all our tools and all the logs on all the tools. It tracks all the activity on all the doors through all the listings, and it sucks in all the check-in, check-out logs as well. So I can pop anytime I know somebody didn't check out. Like, it's pretty comprehensive. But what Erin put together for us in a minute is actually much more, that I'm going to show you in a minute, is actually more human readable as far as basic logging is concerned. The other thing you can control through the administrator portal is, like, you can look up a user. I'm going to look up myself.
So this is pushed up to Django?
Yeah.
A
lot of the stuff on our website is pushed up through there, and it makes a full integration between, like, our doors and the website for control. And Django is pretty open source as well. This will also be available, like our configuration and what we've done here, open source as soon as we strip the credential. But the way that the plugin works, as long as you have an endpoint for it to talk to, it'll talk to any database. It's not Django specific. You just need a database that's going to take the same fields.
So does this operate autonomously, or is it dependent on the AMT central thing?
Nope. You do not have to push data if you don't want to. We just do a lot of analytics and dashboarding and record keeping just for our own, so that we can manage our space, because we're not there as staff. So, but you don't have to push the data anywhere. You can keep all your data in WordPress if you want. That's entirely possible. So back at the ranch, this was what, generally speaking, it costs to get going. And a lot of the Grand Central expenditure was actually infrastructure that we needed to do anyway for our access control points, both our doors and our tools like the laser. So we were going to have to do that anyway. So we're counting money that we paid out to folks like Aaron, who's awesome. Aaron has worked with us for a long time in all our foibles and adventures. And then Hal, who does a lot of our Python development. And then the time that volunteers like myself and Matt put into just organizing it, managing it, testing it, and all that good stuff. So that was the general cost. The environments that we're working in, we host with WP Engine for our WordPress because it is super stable, backed up, 24/7 talking space. And then also our sites come automatically with staging and development instances. So we can properly development, test, and sandbox. And you have basically one-click migration in between those environments. And if anybody's ever worked with WordPress doing a manual migration, it's horrifying. Don't ever do it. You can avoid it. We're hosting with Azure, which we get, for, basically pennies through TechSoup, because it does services and databases and things like that. And we're using Django and Python for endpoints and services, and then just basic databases. And then of course the code base is in GitHub, and the hardware is Raspberry Pi, and it's running Python and just basic configurations. Give it a name, let it see the Wi-Fi, things like that. And that's what the hardware looks like. So before I move on to what's next, which is our hopes and dreams, let's look a little bit at some of the other versions and what that looks like in different environments. So if you're in WP Engine and you want to look at our staging, it's of course behind credentials. And I have not put them in my LastPass, so I'm gonna come scoop them up now. And I'm gonna have to blur this part of the video out. Just occurred to me. Stage.
We will need to change it.
Yeah, I'll just change it. There we go. It's much easier. stagingAMT.wpengine.com. And now I get to look at staging, and now I'm like staging and then the password. And changing it is usually what we do. And the first time it wants to look at it, it's going to take a second for it to load.
It takes a little time because it is sending all the pending notifications because cron job has not run. You need to put it in.
There we go. And then I'm going to have to log in. You're not going to let me scoop it from there, are you? Oh, you. It likes to be confused between my different IDs, even though the credentials are the same from instance to instance to instance. Yay, my user account. I'm back here. So let's check out some of the things that are a little bit different. So this is the next version rolling out. And I'm going to just book a room. Choosing a date, it's pretty much the same. And now, let's see, I'm gonna be like, yay, 6:15 p.m. today. And, first thing it's gonna do is like, you can't check in before you can check out. So it stops users from doing silly things. Now it's going to tell me it's available. Yay, available. You'll be redirected to the account in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, yay. Now it snapped me to where it is, shows me my booking. And now the listings on the calendar are just people's usernames because it's already giving you the time information. And it's more important that we know who else is in the space so that we can negotiate with them than restating times.
Oh, I had a question.
Yes.
Is the booking WordPress plugin based on anything, or was it written from scratch?
So it has dependencies, but it was written from scratch. It's dependent on WooCommerce and memberships because it's looking at membership status, but that could very easily be removed. You can make some other criteria that it's looking for. And the one thing that it is totally dependent on is Advanced Custom Fields Pro. Aaron, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, but just put a few fields, configuration fields. It will take 1 hour to convert that to configuration on WP config. It's not really dependent on it.
Yeah, it just has to be how we're built right now. You could generate those fields another way as well for us. And when I say fields, I'm going to go to my profile. And this is because we're using the advanced custom fields. In the profiles that we have for users, we have a bunch of custom fields, like their door code for an app that we're building, an opportunity for them to add the Slack handle, for you to take their Slack UID, for them to put a picture to go in the thing, for us to say, this is how we record their certifications. So that's how we build these fields without having to code them. So we use those fields with the booking software, but you could use any data point.
So what was that package called again?
Advanced Custom Fields.
Advanced Custom Fields. And did that cost money?
Pro does, and we used the Pro. It's not super expensive. If it was real money, I'd be able to tell you right now exactly how much it costs. Custom Fields Pro. AFC. There we go. View pricing. Yeah, like we're using it on one side. It's $50 a year. Like, not too bad at all. Like, if we were doing a whole bunch of development. Oh, and by the way, that one license covers all our instances. It covers our production, our staging, our dev. Like they're fine with it being in a development stack.
Mm-hmm.
For that. So yeah, that is true. Where were we? So yeah, you can see that we're collecting a lot of information about people that is custom to us. Like we have an integration with DocuSign. So when people sign their sign up like paperwork with DocuSign, it populates these fields with a date, which is one of our quick verification methods. So somebody doesn't have to like log into DocuSign and verify that a new member signed their agreement. And we have date tracking on that and metrics on that. We also have some social stuff that we do, which I could totally talk about another time. So back here, what's new in admin for this is going to be in 3. It's pretty much similar. And it just has a backdash. Am I missing anything, Aaron?
This version is more than anything fits in books. The next version is the one that has more improvements on UE. Also, a lot of the changes are on the pod.
Mm-hmm. Can you Slack me the URL?
Sure, 1 second.
For the
Do you
staging?
need the URL of pod or staging?
Yeah.
Or
the put station, the pot.
on staging or
Staging
what
for now.
version?
Staging. So let's look at, and that's just a developer selection panel. So this is what it would actually show on a Raspberry Pi for the new version. We swapped out the colors and then we changed a bunch of messaging. So 1, 2, 3.
Try typing. Okay.
Which, so, okay. My RFID that I hand keyed in says no. What should I use?
Type 4 times 0
Okay,
and enter.
1, 2, 3, 4. Those are just some dev credentials that we've developed. So something to know is that essentially the RFID reader is acting like an encoded keyboard on that Raspberry Pi. And so I was able to simulate that. It's like, hey, it's telling me that my membership is expired on that user account. So I go in and I'm like, hey, that user account, that's your user account, right, Aaron? So you can make it any criteria. You're not dependent on making it ours. You can fork this software to do any of, like, whatever criteria you want. Our criteria is that you have to have an active membership and be COVID certified, which is very similar to our doors. So Aaron,
Right.
there you are. And I'm just got to give him an active membership, and that will change that because he's paused. So the software is behaving correctly. It's like, no, his stuff's not active. None for Aaron. And so if I switch him to active, go. Ah. I know it's generating that. There we go. Now if I go in here, now it's giving me options. I don't have a reservation. So I now have new options, which are 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and 2 hours, which is still the old one until we get to version 3.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, check in for 15 minutes. Woo. It's gonna tell me yes. Now, if I wanted to check out, let's say this was an RFID swipe, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I have a random question.
Yeah.
What framework was used? CSS/JS framework was used for the Raspberry Pi screens.
Custom, as far as I know. Aaron, you might.
No, it doesn't have a framework. It's just vanilla CSS.
Yeah. We are running the Raspberry Pi in kiosk mode so that it takes the entire screen for the web page and doesn't have the Raspbian interface. So let's look at dev. Can you send me the dev?
Yeah.
POT?
Yeah. Well,
Awesome. And then I've got to remember the dev stuff. Go back to sites. Oops, I could have clicked on dev. So if I wanted to look at the latest version that will go live in a couple days.
it is the same password.
It is?
Yeah. Oh no.
I
Sorry.
was like, since when?
That was right.
But I did forget the URL. There we go, dev AMT. Okay. Whoops. Back in, same problem. It's gonna want thing. Gotta log in to see anything good. Awesome.
What's the difference between dev AMT and staging?
There are actually 3 different instances of our production site. So this is production. Yay, all the data on that. Staging is where we do a lot of testing. So that's all the testing stuff, and development is literally the development sandbox. And any of our developers, including Aaron, could be playing with stuff in there, and it doesn't hurt anything, and we can try stuff. What we do is, like, once something's ready to go to production, or we think it's like, yeah, we think this is solid, we take production, we copy it back to staging, we put the new software in staging, and then we test it. We try to break it really hard. We've got some awesome users who can just break about anything, because we need to make sure that it's current. Because like, what if we updated plugins and there was a conflict or any of that kind of stuff? So staging is really like the hard testing environment where development is actually developing things and trying things and being experimental. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. And one of the reasons we like WP Engine is it comes with these environments. And if I want to migrate or copy environments back and forth, it's pretty much a click, unless you have database issues. You do have to be careful with your e-commerce stuff that you don't double bill people, but that's just being circumspect when you push those buttons. So back here in the third version, which is coming out, the biggest advance for me as an administrator is on the admin page. There should be, did I not? Yes, here. So there should be logs. Are those not posted, Aaron?
No, hold on. Go to the bottom. Well, okay, let me check. Anyways,
Or do I just need to pick a room?
yeah, maybe.
Helps if you pick a room, because each room is going to have its own log.
Logs for room and for user.
Yeah. I was like, I knew I was doing something wrong. So if I picked a room, so this is CleanFab, this is all the logs on this room. And it tells you like, did somebody ghost, which means they never showed up, local check-in, check-out, who the user was, expected time in and time out, all of those data points. And I can look at that. And then it also links to our DB. So I can be like, that's that record for that piece. Because there's a lot of different states a user could potentially leave this in.
Do you have a lot of problems with not people forgetting to badge out?
We kind of planned for that. So when you, if a user doesn't badge out and forgets and leaves the site, what they can do is like, here's my booking here where it says, yay, by remote, I can remote check myself out of something. So it's just, I must have left this in dev. And I'm like, yay. So any user can do that. And from an administrator's perspective, you can also do that from the booking page. So we don't do it without taking a camera verification that they actually left though. Like I check a camera feed to be like, is the human in there? Because at the end of the day, this isn't about keeping pretty records in a database, though I really like pretty records in databases. It's about humans in rooms being safe. So if I check, yeah. If I check,
sorry.
Yeah, if I had like verified that Matt really wasn't there anymore, I could click checkout on him and do an administrator override on that. For the most part, we've had 90% engagement with check-in, check-out, or better. It's very rare for me to have to check somebody out. And usually once they remind them, it takes care of that. The other thing that's going on that you're not seeing is notifications. There are a lot of juicy notifications. Let me show you what you get. Since we're a Slack space, like it's like, hey, you didn't check out. No, really check out. No, here's another message asking you to check out. Like the system's gonna keep bugging you. It's also gonna start sending you emails saying, check out. Hey, did you know that you need to check out in 5 minutes? Maybe it's time to start cleaning up. Like, so there's a robot doing all of that reminding for us attached to this system. So they can absolutely do that. I can also get user, as Aaron said, I can also get logs by users. So I'm like crafty.
So this slash asset AMT001 in the Slack screen.
Yeah.
Are those, is that, what's that underlying? That's just a Slack plugin extension?
It's just an integration.
Yeah, okay.
It's just an integration between Slack and WordPress, which is in the plugin, which you can turn on or turn off if you use it. It is dependent on that, about that information. So if the user, let me go to my information, edit profile, please, yay. So if you have not popped in the Slack user ID, not their name that they show with, but like their unique code from Slack, it can't message them. It will just start emailing them with whatever they have on record. So these logs, far superior to the previous logs. The other thing that is the good user interface juice is now once you choose a room and you choose a date, I'm going to choose today. If you're choosing that day, it's going to gray out anything that already happened. So you can snap to what's white. Also, the times are now in whole numbers, which are also in white if you're on the same day, which just make it a little bit easier for the user interface for that. We added some prompts, these little just visual prompts, so people realize they can scroll through a menu whenever they want. And oh, we're running over time. I underplanned this. Copy link address. And we have some new screens over here. Let's go to laser. So why is it giving me that? It should have the shorter times.
That's not implemented yet.
Yeah, so that's still under development. It'll be shorter times when it has it. So yay, taking an hour. But some of the things that it can do in the newer system, and I'm just going to bring up my handy dandy illustrator, is that it'll now show you the, oh my bad. Now, like if you don't have a time available, like it's full, there's no time available, it gives you a button so you can see the calendar on here. And like you can do that kind of thing. It's kind of hard to simulate at this point, but we added that. We added a couple of other cues and a little bit better user interface to this version, which is still, we're still working on tying it up, but those are mostly user things and making messages shorter and bolder from what you've seen in our first version. But I don't want to keep y'all. What questions can we answer from a tech perspective?
I want to say very nice work. I'm very impressed.
Erin did an amazing job, and the team, which I do consider myself part of, worked really hard at making something that could work for users, but also we could make at a reasonable price. And when I talk price, I talk not only about the money that we spend to pay people, but like our time, like the cost of time and testing and rollout and all those kinds of things. Also knowing that this software probably has a life to about October of this year when it comes to the situation. I really hope it's as far as October is concerned. I really hope that we're normal by then. And then we'll probably roll it into a softer version that's more about keep room booking, but pull off occupancy caps or make them very big for that kind of thing. But we really like this social interaction with it. And for us, it also means that one of the kind of benefits that we probably want to keep from this is now I can do program analysis and I can tell you what rooms are being used the most, like what things are being used the most. Like, are we mostly building robots upstairs with 3D printers and electronics? Are we all about making the furniture this month? Like where, you know, it just gives us data so that we can make real decisions strategically on what programs need support or are worth fancier, newer, bigger tools. Like where's our user base really using things? And for me, that's the long-term exciting. The short-term is exciting is we can ethically have people in the space and keep them safe. The other thing to know about everything that we have built is, and this, anybody who wants this content is welcome to it now. There's a public facing page that has our safety program on it, including the videos that we've built to train people. And I'm more than happy to show our knowledge checks, which are little tests supported by class marker. But you could put you could put a Google test in here if you didn't.
Is that public? The little
yeah, it's all public. It's all fully public. If you go to acemakerspace.org, Here, I'll put this in the chat.
I'm just looking at your URL. Yeah, just navigate there. I'll type it
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And also the entire program has a full like reference guide for all the stuff. So like if you have people who don't learn by video, we literally wrote the whole thing out.
What may I ask? What's your wiki based on? What software
Wiki's
framework?
WordPress as well. I will tell you the tragic story of the 18-month data loss. We were rolling in the way that makerspaces roll, and we needed to update our version of Wikimedia that had our old wiki on it and 8 years of data on it. And the development team didn't consult anybody, the volunteer development team, and they're like, awesome, we're gonna move the production version of the wiki over into my buddy's space in AWS, and then we're gonna work on Playground One and the server space that we own. And now we're all going to scatter to parts unknown. And then the person who had our production version in AWS was a really nice guy, really good sweetheart, moved to Colorado, but was still maintaining it. It crashed. We're like, hey, can you just get this up for the day and let's work on getting it over? We had been saying that like twice a month for several months at that point. And he's like, sure, let me get that up today. And he copied the data volume over with the root. And we lost the data volume and all changes that had been done for 18 months. At which point we're like, yeah, WordPress is suboptimal, but it's really good for users because the WYSIWYG is awesome. And oh yeah, we already paid WP Engine to back our stuff up every night. Guess what? We're using WordPress. But we have some really neat things that we did that are integrations in with that database for like our asset tracking. Somebody pick a number for me. Any number?
42.
How many? What?
42.
Okay. So AMT, I'm gonna go 142 because 42 is like way back in our stack. Yay. That's that asset. Right now, it's tracking that's the last status on it. But if I'm in Slack and I update that with just like a little slash code, AMT 142, either I can recall the data or I can update it, which actually I need to for this item. Split up, needs to be retired. And any user can do this on their phone. Yay. Now imagine you just did that on your phone. Now it's updated everywhere that record can be displayed.
Wow. Do you guys track all of your assets like that?
Anything that is worth more than $200 or that a user would find helpful to know where it is or how it works. So we're also looking at taking that data, I believe it's AMT 266, and help make our semi-dumb machines and dumb machines a little bit smarter, because we can pull there's all the records ever. There's a display of all the logs. And if we can have a computer go over this data and send us notifications of like, you've had X many minutes runtime, you need to check your filters. Here's your reminder that nobody's updated this in 3 months. You might want to check the status of this thing. Stuff like that, like based on our own criteria. So, but the first step in making these dumb machines smart is to capture some information about it. But it's really easy for me to be like, I can do human analysis on these logs going, hi, if I search for the word down, about how often did we go down? All right, that's not so bad. And they're in clusters, which is pretty good. And now I can do some analysis for my program and see how, and because there's these big gaps, I bet if I overlap the time on them, I bet they were quarterly. And I bet that this machine needs quarterly maintenance. And so you get to use data in kind of really meaningful ways. But that's just, that's tangential to the asset tracking system. Is there anything you'd like to add that I didn't show, Aaron?
No. The only thing we were missing was notifications. We already did.
Yep, lots of notifications. Yeah. So thanks for coming out today, and we look forward to seeing what people do with this software once we let it out there in the world. And we're pretty responsive as a group, and our Slack is public access. So once again, it's out there. If people have questions, we would answer them. Thanks for coming out today, and enjoy your Saturday.
Thanks so much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too.